Podcast twins, here we go. Vince, lead us off, man. Let's go. Let's have some fun today.
Hey, first of all, we want to welcome you right back here to the Twin Cave. Okay, and we are back again, and we want to get you started by making sure that you hit subscribe on YouTube, hit the little bell icon so you can get reminded of every episode that we do. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok. We're everywhere that you have social.
Spotify.
Even
Don't forget
X,
Spotify.
Even X.
And you really hate X.
I don't love it, but Spotify for my truck drivers. Matter of fact, shout out to my boys in Georgia yesterday. The guys called me talking about they listening to us on Spotify. So the over the road guys out there, man, y'all be strong out there. So other than that, welcome back, baby.
So Vince, you have something that is on your mind today.
Well,
it's a conversation you've kind of, let's say, teased before on some episodes, but you've been talking to people about a specific topic. So why don't you go ahead and tell me what you want to talk about today, Vince?
Okay, so those that know me know that I'm real big on manhood and accountability.
Yep.
And so that's really what happened. I wound up getting to a very, very deep conversation, and it just kind of spilled over because it just wouldn't let me hold my peace. But the basis of it was moms trying to say, because it was two moms in the group. One mom was like, I'm raising my son to be, single moms, the best man I can make him be. Granted, the other mom was like, I'm looking for someone to enter into his life, whether it be a new man coming into her personal life or an uncle and then we got to talking about the frequency, because at that point I stopped him. I said, because there's a difference between men and males. You're born a male. Nobody's going to ever be able to take that from you, but you have to be taught and reared into being a man. And unfortunately, women don't have that capacity to really make that young male into a man. Just as though I was a single dad a long time, I was not able to teach my daughter some of the things that women can only teach them, just because of the walks of our own lives. So it was my job to then bring in people that I trusted to assist my girls into some of those things and I was wide open. So those of you that know me, so I did have quality people in their lives, but the difference being is that their daughters have a better shot at life because they're a woman. They can turn her into a woman, and usually they're harder on that girl because they know how to turn her into a woman, but they're soft as hell on that boy. And you can always find him, because where is he? He's 21 years old. He's sitting on a couch. He's got a joystick in his hand. He's playing video games. He can do no wrong. And let's take it another step further. He might have one or two kids out there in different households, and she's just like, okay, little Timmy, hey, you can do no wrong, but really that's because of the way she protected him all of his life. And when the man is in the structural part of raising that young male into a man, a real one, his accountability is way different. I'm not saying he's still not going to go out there and make a mistake or whatever, have a baby. I'm not saying that, but the responsibility level is different. He's not going to be sitting on that father's couch comfortable with a joystick in his hand at 2:30 in the afternoon. He ain't got no job, but he's playing $1,000 video game. It just won't happen. It might happen for a heartbeat because he got to listen to his wife, but usually it's going to be a timeline put on that because he's going to have to get a job, make sure he gets savings, and then eventually get out there on his own. And so that's where it started. And brother, when I got into that conversation, the room just it got the
air
quiet.
Went out.
It got quiet real fast because now I got these two individuals looking at me, and I'm like, well, you're already doing your best, but the only thing you can make him be is a responsible, respectable young man, to just come out there. But as far as manhood stuff, you're incapable. At least this one was saying, I'm looking for that help. I put them in programs. I enroll them in sports, enroll them in these, or even a lot of people in our Kappa League program and these other programs.
Right.
That's what they're doing because they need male help into developing their young males into men.
Well, you need a role model in real life, right? If Charles Barkley is your role model, like I am not a role model, right? Or you're looking up to LeBron or whoever,
Right.
that's not going to affect your day-to-day living. You're not going to learn gems of wisdom and things that you need to know for life from LeBron.
No, absolutely not. And because you can't. The only thing LeBron can,
he can teach you how to play basketball.
And he's 6'9", 260 pounds.
And I'm not.
You know what I'm saying? So if you're modeling your game after that guy and you're not 6'9", 260 pounds that can run like the wind and strong as an ox, you might need a different role model.
I would go as far to say as you need more than just your dad. I mean, my dad, an amazing role model.
Right.
I look up to my dad. He's still one of my best friends. We don't agree on everything, but we are business partners in my networking group.
Right.
And even though he was a strong influence my entire life and continues to be, I have other mentors that are men.
Absolutely.
That are teaching me things that maybe my dad didn't teach me, or I was too stupid or too headstrong or too arrogant to listen to my dad when I should, but I needed to hear it from my uncle or my best friend or somebody who's 10 years older, 20 years older, 25 years older, which is kind of the work that you do with Pompano Cap. That is the work you do with Pompano Kappas. But so...
You're right. You do need... It is a village of men to raise a male.
Yeah.
But it still needs that male testosterone to do that. I'm not taking anything away from these women. They are doing their absolute best because they have to, and they're doing everything they can. And there is a fine line between holding him tight because the streets are dangerous and releasing him out there so he can get a taste of it. So when he finally does get there, it's not the eyes wide open and he's just walking into a buzzsaw. There is doses in which you have to be able to do that. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. It was danger everywhere I didn't know it because you grew up in it. But my father was present and my father was there. And there was, we went outside and played. We did all this, but there was always a line that I couldn't cross that my friends could because he would pull me back. Or I had somewhere else to go that was more constructive than being out there in the street. He made me go and do this or enrolled me in that. I had other things, other avenues that I had to do because of him. I gained the knowledge as I became older that, you were just doing that. So I wasn't just constantly outside with them. He still let me go out there because I had to go and get my feet dirty and smell that good old south side air. But I also was taught that there was a limit.
So when you were making this conversation happen, or this argument, if you will, with these single moms, when you are articulating your points, you're dealing with two people who are very involved in their son's life.
Yes.
They're very cognizant of the fact that they're single mothers. They're proud of it. And you probably... proud of raising them.
Proud of what they're doing.
Proud of what they're doing.
Yes.
Sorry, I should have said proud of what they're doing. And you're going to drum up some emotions.
Yes.
And a lot of times, no matter how logical your point could be, it's very difficult in any situation. And it could be, this topic. It could be a politic topic. It could be a religion topic. You're going to deal with people who are very invested emotionally in what they're doing. So how do you make a logical argument to an emotional human being? And not just women, but in general. I trapped you.
I was going to say something that was just going to get us canceled right now.
Cancel us, Vince. Say it.
But here's
say it.
The kicker behind that question is yes. Especially there is no more sensitive of a subject than your children.
100%.
And that can go to men or women, especially the moms.
I would say especially both.
Well, and I'd say that, well, again, one is a provider, one is a protector. So that's why I said it varies. Just in the DNA, which is why we got a whole other issue with this.
No, we're not going there
identification process. But your traditional old school male is the provider and the protector. The mom is definitely the more emotional person traditionally in the household. But now she has to try to provide, protect, be there emotionally, and try to do all of the jobs at once. And hey, I don't care how good you are, you can't do all of the jobs great, right? So that's why you do need that. That's why the other person in the room who was actively seeking proper placement for her sons, she had 2 boys, to go and have this kind of leadership and guidance. And I was still saying, hey, granted, when he it's good.
Okay.
I said, granted, even when they go to whatever organization it is, you still need to be cognizant of whether it be the coach. Just because he's assigned the head coach don't mean he's a great individual. Just because he is assigned as a counselor at this camp doesn't mean he's a great individual. So take the time to vet these people before you just throw your kids in their hands and hope and pray. Like I said, for us on the fraternity side, we definitely have dedicated people that have been there, and the results are there because we've turned out some excellent young men in the many years that this organization has been in existence. But there are so many other good ones just like it. And Boys and Girls Club and these other things, the
YMCA, stuff like that,
yeah. That was when we was kids too. The YMCA was huge, but that's what a lot of kids do. Right here in Boca is a great YMCA that several of my friends worked at. But again, mentorship, it's just certain things that you can't accomplish on your own. I think I got more resistance from the one who didn't actively seek that help, because almost arrogantly she was like, but I'm doing, and I'm like, well, okay, well, I'm not taking away from what you're doing, because obviously he's still breathing, so that means you're doing a good job keeping him alive. You couldn't put some food on his back, getting the education, doing everything you can do. But again, we're talking about making a well-rounded man. But then the question came back. And I brought this from another subject matter that I kind of just tossed into it. And I said, do you want your children, your sons and your daughters, to be husbands and wives? You heard that silence?
What was the answer?
The answer was resounding, well, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay. Well, usually humans are creatures of, we repeat what we see. I said, so you're single. Just based on demographics, since the 80s, since the 70s really, at your age, your mother, so the kid's grandparent is probably single, divorced. One of the two was like, yes. The other one was like, no, they're still together. And I'm like, well, that is what they see. And I don't know how close they are as far as visitations and stuff like that. But again, kids can only duplicate what they see. But how can you, as a single individual, teach somebody to be a husband or wife? Ooh, it got steamy. But that's the truth. I mean, because again, usually you need that person to guide you into this brand new world. We're not talking about the wedding.
Yeah.
We're talking about the active life of being, married. Basically taking your business number and my business number and bringing this together and making a conglomerate, because that's all it is.
Sure.
But that's why you're getting tax breaks and doing all this stuff. Can you take these two business entities and make one solid business, and then have other famous offspring that come out of that and create more businesses? Because that's all marriage is.
Yeah.
Marriage is an agreement.
Sure.
People trying to twist it up and make it all about, oh, he or she is this, that. Look, that's an individual decision. Individuals can make their own decisions on how they're going to live their life every day. When you walk out the door, all you can do is hope that your partner does and holds their agreement. That's all you can do.
You know, I can give you my experience.
Shoot.
Because I have my son 50% of the time since he was 3. He's 16 now. And I feel like I'm constantly battling with the things that I'm teaching him and the things that his mom is teaching him. And it's not like we have a dialogue or communication
You don't have a
between
unified
one another. And then when we do, it's like, okay, well, I disagree, and I'm going to do it my way, and that is what it is.
Two households, 2 different rules.
You know, and of course I have a wife now, and a daughter too, and we're together. So it's an interesting dynamic, and it's not always fun and games, but you still have to hold to, you know, what you believe is right.
Right. But then now she's holding on to what she believes is right. And then, you know, so the overall picture, is it right for the kid? Because ultimately, that should be the number one decisive point in this thing. So I spin it this way. Divorce is going to happen. Separations are going to happen. But if the only reason, and I say this the only reason that when couples break apart, that they can't get together immediately and co-parent properly is because one of the parties can't get over how they feel. In other words, you can't get out of your own way to help co-parent these kids. And I say that because, I don't give a damn what he or she did to her or another. I don't care. But if you felt strongly enough to break up, then be ready enough to give it up. Because if you can do that, if you can break apart and really separate that emotion from it, man, all you should have in common is wanting the best for that offspring.
Well, I want to believe that is true. However, we have a different opinion on what is best.
Well, again, we're talking about decisions for the kid. Is it just to be in opposition of one another? Because if that comes just to be in opposition of, or are we in competition? Competition is another big one, but competition usually comes because I want to be the parent that you like the best. I want to be that parent that you like the best. And so I'm willing to buy you, I'm willing to do whatever the case may be. Basically, you're letting this kid take the path of least resistance. So he's going to go over there, he or she, because there's fewer rules, fewer disciplines, and all this other kind of stuff like that. But as opposed to saying, look, let us get out of our own way and have a conversation about the subject, and we make a decision, and then we disseminate that decision down. That would be the best thing. And usually when that happens is when the kids are grown. The parents have been apart for 15, 20 years. Now you can kind of get together and be, you know what? Because you don't care no more. The emotion is over. But then you quickly begin to realize that what I said was holding true. It was that one party just could not get over what happened to them or why it failed. It doesn't matter. When you have your mindset to make your kid be the best they can be with the support from both sides, and not saying, well, I don't need him, I don't need her, I can do. Listen, we all feel like that when we become single parents.
Divorce ain't fun or easy.
It ain't fun or easy, but again, when you can truly walk away from it, because when you disconnect the emotion side of it, I could have sat there and literally watched my ex-wife do some horrible things right here on this table. It wouldn't have bothered me one bit, because when I was done, I was done. When I pulled the plug, I was done. And never did I even try to go back. Never did I nothing. No samples, none of that. No drop off the kid, none of that. Because I was done. And so we just had to wait to be on the same level of done before we could really communicate solidly You know, I just wish it was a lot earlier in my particular case, but in a lot of my compadres' cases now, this is what they're dealing with. And I'm like, hey, listen, can you talk on the phone for 10 minutes about the kid? Or does it wind up migrating back to
something 12 years ago or 13, 14 years
basically
ago?
One of the subjects is going to come back to you ain't shit. You know, and no matter how it goes, but it doesn't matter. He can be a horrible husband or she can be a horrible wife, but they might be great parents. And that's a reality. You got to get out of the way and let them be a great parent to that person. And so when you do bring somebody else into your life, they need to already know that parent is still there. But that parent got to be really secure enough in themselves to be like, hey, listen, let's all work. We're building a village around this kid or these group of kids. But when you can do that, that's when you can truly say, my emotions are completely detached. How many of you can say that?
All right, well, that's enough for me on that topic because I can't go any further on this. But I think the audience can read the handwriting on the wall for how that goes. Mm-hmm. So enough about my personal life. Let's get back to the conversation of the reasons why you feel so strongly about this.
Because, again, what we're looking at is young men out here creating themselves a hole that they can't climb out of before they're 16, 17 years old. Before, back in the day, you would go out and get in a little trouble with juvenile, whatever, your records were sealed. Now you're creating big enough crimes to where you're being tried as an adult at 14, 15, and 16 years old. And so once you start in that system, the system has you. And it's just a perpetual thing. We call it the school to prison pipeline because you're just not getting that. So if that kid goes into, that kid can go into the worst school system in the world. If he has a quality home base, that kid has a great opportunity to go out there and be somebody because he knows the difference between saying yes or no when somebody's getting ready to do something bad because he's been taught that from both sides of his family. He has a strong, if he ain't scared of what's going to happen when he gets home because he know he's doing some real horrible shit, then home is not the right spot.
Let's go a step into it.
Let's go
and talk about why is divorce so widespread and so prevalent?
Woo!
Because marriage, when it was invented, if you will, was people only lived till like 30, right? So they got married at 15.
Right.
They were married for 15 years. They raised the kid till he or she was 15. I think they only had 2 genders back then.
Yeah.
So till he or she was 15, and then the kid was on their own at 15, and you didn't have to be married anymore because one or both of you was already in the ground.
Okay.
So now
but marriage was different back then because your purpose for getting married was different.
Okay.
My parents were born in the 20s.
Oh,
Their parents were born. All of my grandparents were born in the 1890s.
Yeah.
So with that being the case, my grandparents needed to have kids to help till the farms. They needed bodies to really help in the fields.
Okay.
So it was pick somebody, let's procreate, let's build this. This is what we need to do. By the time my parents came along, it was beginning to get the marriage was beginning to get co-opted by love and beginning to get co-opted by a commercialism. Because my folks was married in 47.
Okay.
So this is when commercialing was getting big. Hey, now you want to get engaged, it needs to be the 3 times your salary of a diamond ring. That's a marketing ploy by De Beers, to buy a diamond. And then they got the women to buy into this crap. So
then you got to have a big party that costs $50,000 and you start out in debt.
The co-op, the marriage itself, the business agreement got co-opted by the love business. And then later on, after the women's lib era kicked in really strong, then it got co-opted again by the legal district. They started making divorce easy and sexy. And it was like, well, you don't have to take that no more. So again, the whole point of getting married in the first place has literally changed this definition every generation. And now a lot of these kids are talking about they don't see a need to. But why? Because their mom is single, their grandma's single, their aunties are single. They have never seen a successful relationship. So they're like, why do I need to do this?
Either that or they see their grandparents be married. This was not the case in mine, but I know friends of mine that have, their grandparents have been married 50, 60 years sometimes. Yeah. And they're miserable and they hate each other. Yeah. And it looks, from the outside looking in, like, why would I want to fight with my spouse, my partner, my person that I'm in business with, however you want to call it, the person I'm in love with? Right. Why would I want to fight for 50 years and hate that person? And I think that's an under-noticed thing. Yeah. But I notice it.
Yeah, well, look, it ain't perfect. My folks was married 66 and a half years.
God bless.
And so
that's a long time.
That's 2 lifetimes. So they won that game. So, but at the same time, it wasn't all roses and sunshine.
Oh, I'm not saying that.
So, but the stick to itness it got taken away because the lawyers came in and said, hey, the moment you're pissed off, you can go and you can fight. There's no reason to stick with it. In that regard, but let's flip it on the other side.
Well, I got more though. Go ahead, finish your thought.
Let's flip that, because again, you said, why be miserable? Because usually it's because you made that back then, because you made that commitment that you were going to stay. You did bad things, he did bad things, y'all stayed, y'all just stuck with it for the kids or whatever. But you developed love. But my whole thing was going to come back and say, but that's why you have powerful families that put people together around the world. Not here around the world. There's still arranged marriages for that purpose of, look, we're trying to develop our families and build power in our families. We'll put those two together, let them court, they'll make it boom boom boom, and they'll fall in love later. Because they understand that is how you build and keep power, is by building your family powerful. Here, we got co-opted.
Okay.
Go.
Okay. So.
Because you weren't finished. I want you to finish.
No, but it's a lot to digest. So. Yeah. The reason that I hear and that I see from people that I know that are divorced, and whether they're married again or not, right, is that social media had a impact. And now I don't think social media had an impact in my divorce in any way, but that's one person, so that doesn't matter. Right. But what are your thoughts on, the whole idea of everybody's looking for something better because social media is a highlight reel? Absolutely. And everything looks better. The grass is greener on the other, let's say, website, not page. But, right. The grass is greener. Sometimes it's spray painted green. Yeah. Right. Sometimes it's just a mere portrait. Right. And so where do you go with that?
Oh, 100%. But again, let's look at the generation in which we're dealing with. This generation of 20 to 30-year-olds were brought up with devices in their hand. They know nothing. They don't know life without social media. Yeah. So that is a weird concept, because now you're right. We could make mistakes when we were kids. There was no documentation. You could get blown up. You could have a, poopy pamper day at school, and only the people in your school knew. Yeah. You do that today, it's worldwide. It's viral. You're viral within the minutes. And now you're worrying about this kid jumping off the building or swallowing his mom's pills when he gets home, because social media is that strong. But yes, even in that adult, you're watching this, you're still chasing this unreachable dream of perfection, or I can step up, I can raise my game. If you're married doing this other situation, and you're it does give you that, well, I could do better. Then you start looking at people and saying, I heard a girl on the way here, I was watching something on YouTube, and it before I came in, and she said, if you show up to a date with me and you're empty-handed, you'll never see me again. Now, and I'm like, but again, so I'm already at the rent-a-date stage, and I don't even know who you are. We ain't even had a cup of coffee yet. But my point is that who taught her how to date? Her single mama?
Okay.
Her single grandma? Who taught her how to date? Fathers play a huge role in their daughters learning how to date.
Okay. So,
So yes, social media plays a hell of a role because it is painting this attractive ass picture out here. Except when you get there, the ground is not stable because all it is misery loving company.
Well, you also have to be happy with yourself, or your partner is never going to make you happy.
Out. Did you say that out loud?
I said that out loud.
Shit. Listen.
Am I canceled? Did you kick me off the show?
No.
Are we not friends anymore?
No, listen, man. That is. I'll take it back to me.
Did I go too philosophical?
No.
All right.
I love that because the whole issue is a lot of people have issues being alone because they don't know how to be alone. They haven't taken that time to heal from those past traumas before they drag that baggage into the next household. So that's where it's a major issue. And I always say it takes two complete people to make a successful business / relationship.
Okay.
Because if you're a needy person, because you don't know how to be alone, you don't know how to be within yourself, if that's who you are, you'll never be successful with this person that's complete, that's taking the time to work on themselves, heal themselves from past traumas, and because you're inevitably, whatever broke you up in the past, you're bringing that with you, and it's probably going to affect your current situationship that you're walking into.
I think it's more than just can you be alone or not. I think it,
and
I'll tell you why. So I had a mentor and a manager when I was early in my career in banking. I couldn't have been more than 24. So we're talking almost 20 years ago. Her name was Marie Ramcharan.
Okay.
She was from Trinidad, I believe.
Okay.
And she was 5'0", maybe 80 pounds,
Yeah.
like a very tiny woman from Trinidad. And she was the calmest, most cool and collected and like internally happy person. No matter who was yelling at her, if a customer was mad because they overdrafted their account or couldn't get approved for a loan or whatever, she had like an invisible coat that protected her from anybody else's bullshit, if you will.
Yeah.
And
I love it.
And I came in there all bent out of shape. I'm 24, right? I'm emotional, more than I am today. Let's say.
Yeah.
And I came in there. Nothing was going right. I'm talking with my hands. You know, my voice is escalating, which my voice can carry sometimes in a giant bank with no offices because it was like an old school layout.
Yeah.
And she goes, Drew, can I tell you something? Just very calmly. She goes, there's two choices every day. She goes, if you want to be happy, then you should really focus on the things that you have in your life that you're grateful for. And if you want to be sad, find things in your life that you don't have and dwell on that. And one of the arguments, and that changed my perspective. I still remember this 19 years ago.
That was fantastic advice.
And one of the arguments I made when my ex-wife and I were discussing the final decision to get divorced was, you know, nothing I can do can make you happy because you're just not a happy person. Now that pissed her off.
Right.
Which maybe that was my intention, maybe it wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, I was working on myself while I was separate. I was working out 4 times a week.
Yeah.
I was eating well. I got promoted. I left the bank and started my own business.
Right.
You know, I was focused on me.
Yeah, which is what you should do.
My son, of course, right? And you know, I got him a dog. We still have the dog now.
Right.
So it's one of those things where I look at it and say, it's more than just can I be alone. It's can I be happy.
Well,
and some
I guess
people,
that's
I would
metaphor
argue,
of me saying being alone.
Are incapable of being happy no matter what. I mean, we all have someone in our life, or have dealt with someone in our life, that no matter how nice you were, kill them with kindness, you know, they were still pissed off. Even if they got what they wanted, they were still angry at the end of the conversation.
Facts.
So my argument would be, if you're never going to be happy no matter what, you shouldn't get married to have somebody else try to make you happy, because that's an uphill battle with boulders coming down at you.
That's the point. How do they know they're not ready to get married? Because they haven't had anybody how to teach them how to be a wife, how to be a husband. It's a taught process. It's not a sit down, we're going to get a pen and paper and learn this. It's a lot of it you watching successful couples do it, and then you do ask questions, or they come to you because they start to see you dating this little person over here and seeing what's happening. You usually get that kind of advice coming down from those successful couples in your life. But if you are the third generation and you have yet to see anybody successful, because those people above you are probably going to tell you that the first sign of trouble, you should break up and leave and run.
All right,
because when that happens, that's because misery loves company. You know what, girl, get your dress on. Let's go to the club.
Last question.
Go.
And then we're ending this topic.
Okay. Y'all didn't know we could go here.
What about when your family all sees this is a horrible effing idea, that person is not the right person for you?
Oh, absolutely.
And they can tell you, but no one has listened that I've ever met.
Right.
So you could tell them, but sometimes they got to make the mistake on their own. And that's a shitty thing to say, but it's going to happen.
It's happened to everybody I know, including me. So, listen, I get it. But the one thing you can always say is that when things are starting to crumble, you hear that in the back of your head at the very beginning, is that the people that's in your life, your circle, when they tell you something, they trying to help protect you from this. Unfortunately, when we're 24, 25 years old, we're full of piss and vinegar, and our testosterone is here. We think we know everything, and we're going to go and do it. We're going to run into that wall before we figure it out.
So Vince still didn't answer my question as how you talk logically to someone who's emotional, because this is another situation where that applies.
Okay, I would say I wasn't emotional, because I was told the same thing. I was told, and it wasn't this person is not good. It was that the compatibility wasn't present.
Sure.
And so they told me, I was taking the breakfast. I almost hit shit. A&E could have put that on intervention. It was that kind of conversation. And but the issue wasn't because again, I was copying my dad. You know, because I'm watching this successful situation in my life going around here. It was a good family, everything was good. Everything was good except for me not having the understanding how to see down the road and see how some of these small decisions were not coming together.
So it made sense at the time.
It made sense to me
at the time,
who did not have the wisdom that these people who were sitting across the table from me was trying to stop me from running into that brick wall, because I promise you that every issue that was brought up there happened.
Well, if you were the king of the United States of America, if we had a king, would you put an age restriction? And what number would it be?
Ooh.
Because our brains are not even fully developed until we're 25.
25 years old.
So, like, that could be one of the conversations to start at.
Okay.
I think that men's brains are not fully developed. Maybe still not today, but minimum 30, if not 35. And I'm speaking from my own experience, not for all men. I can't speak for all men. I'm kind of talking for most of them, though.
Right, yeah, most of us, yeah. That little thing swinging. I will take that question and bend it.
Yes, here we go.
Because I often said that the state of marriage should have to be renegotiated every 5 years.
So like a lease.
With an option to buy. Every 5 years. But it's not just at the end of 5 years you pick up, because there's terms that go into this thing at the very beginning. You know, because obviously every 5 years you might have a kid, something may change. The new terms need to be negotiated. It's always going to be the best terms if you stay.
How do you think wives would feel about that? process?
I say that to them all the time.
Do you think they like that idea?
I think that they would get a better relationship. You know why? Because both parties would work goddamn hard to make sure that their situation works, as opposed to just coasting along. Because please don't stay with me because you've been with me all these years. I hate that. That's the term I hate to hear. Well, we've been together all these years. All these years? Who gives a damn about all these years? Look, I want to see you putting this work in for me daily as I put in the work for you daily. But if you know you coming up to, what does an athlete do? He's in his contract year, baby. I need a big year. You got to do something to either convince this person they want to come back and stay with you. It creates that environment of hunger, because either the renegotiation of every 5 years, or teach them before they get married that the reason that they're getting married. You should
run for Congress today, because you still didn't answer my question.
Well, because it's...
Would you put an age limit on it or not? No.
No. And I say no because I know some very mature youngsters. My parents were... my mom had just turned 18. My father hadn't turned 21 yet.
Okay.
They made 66 and a half years before my father died.
Wow.
So, and most of the people in that generation lasted that long. A lot of them lasted that long. So, that's true. And they got married early. And so that's why I say no. But you're talking about optimally? Yes. In today's world, I'd say optimally a woman 25, a man 30. Okay. But then it also says get married, wait a minimum of 2 to 3 years before you start having kids. Because that way you really get to understand whether you really like each other. You already fell in love. Do you like that woman or not? You got to understand whether you like each other enough to commit and stay. So I say 2 to 3 years. That way you get to build a little money, take a couple of trips, see how you live with this person before you start popping babies in. And unfortunately, that's the problem when you have babies young, because now you already a package deal. They already got to know how you are, and they can't just pop up and be like, hey, pack your bag, it's Friday, we're going away, because now you got to ask somebody to babysit. So it's the optimal thing is to no one have babies before 25, and then at 28 you start having kids. That would be optimal, because you got your career going, you're building up something, and you establish that you like each other. I think that if that happens, you'll have a better chance to make 50 years.
So next time on Podcast Twins, I ask Vince, what if she's pregnant? And that's it for today, because we're not answering that today. You can think about that one for the next episode.
Damn. And that's how we end it. Hey, make sure you click the like button, man. Share this episode with somebody, and don't forget to subscribe and click the little bell icon. And for all my listeners on Spotify, make sure you keep listening and leave a comment when you park your trucks or whatever it is that you're doing. Hey, we need your engagement, man. So with that being said, we appreciate everybody.
And we'll see you guys next week on Podcast Twins.